All right, we're back. We're live. What's up, everyone? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. I'm joined by Ilya Zeldin today. Ilya, how you doing?
I am doing great, thanks. Great to be live and with you.
Great to be alive. Yes, that is definitely a fact. So, Ilya, maybe kick it off. Tell people a little bit about Tonomi, the company that you're building. Maybe let's keep it under a paragraph, but we'll definitely circle back to it near the end of the interview.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's what got me in here. So, To Know Me is a SaaS platform that, at its core, helps people become better aware to know me, to know thyself, and then focuses really in the education sector on personalizing professional learning for teachers. So, we work with states, we work with district to help them provide the type of personalized learning for the educators that we, all of us, expect teachers to provide for students in the classroom. And essentially, treating teachers like learners is at the core of Tonomi. And yeah, again, thank you for noticing.
Cool. So, like I was saying earlier, I love talking about companies, obviously, but I find without the storyline around the founder, things fall a bit flat. So happy to dig in and yeah, ask you a little bit about your background. So, I was reading you moved to US when you were 15. So, what do you remember most about those first few months in a new country?
Well, my family, I was born and raised in Moscow, in Russia, and then my family immigrated in 1990. And so, May 23, 1990, is the day that we arrived in the United States. I was 15, and so I became a sophomore in high school in Queens, in New York. Uh, Went through that. Then, after that, went through state school and then grad school. So, it was like a path. But what I remember is I just remember like kids my age and other families pulling together. I remember the community of it all. I remember being immersed into a new school after the summer break, and um, 3,000 kids in the school. It was crazy. But there was one teacher, Miss Cynthia Chase, creative writing. She helped me. She helped me embrace my terrible English and learn it and be creative and brave and really pulled me through.
And what were you like as a kid in Russia? Were you all already into tech, or did that come later for you?
No, that came much later. I was just a kid. I was a teenager. I don't really, um, I don't really, I haven't really retained any friendships or connections as a
Hmm.
teenager now, 30 plus years later. It was just that part of my life that luckily my parents were, in a sense, brave to immigrate out, and they were in their mid 40s and give me the opportunity to live in America in a sense, try to bring my own dream into reality.
And then and then you went on to get an MBA from Georgetown. So what drew you to business school, and what clicked for you there?
Oh, so when I was in college, I started my first business, and that turned into like a 3-year venture that I was able to learn a lot from, and in a sense, sell forward as a story to Georgetown and be able to get into a Georgetown MBA right out of college, which was really rare. So I deferred for a year to kind of work a little bit on Wall Street, just see what that side of the world is like, and ultimately went to Georgetown. It was like one of the best 2 years of my life.
Cool. And then before Tonomi, you launched several startups, right? And you spent 5 years at Dell running global service providers. What did that corporate world teach you about building things?
I did have a chance to create my own teams as part of building other adventures, and also be part of a really awesome team at Dell focusing on that transition into SaaS from more of traditional one-off processes. And I think what I saw is how often good people don't work out in bad teams. How um, people seem to be thinking that they bring something forward in terms of their own skills, and either they are wrong, right, and or what they bring is not necessarily aligned to what their boss or what their organization expects from them, and then when that kind of disconnect meets in the middle, it creates problems, and it typically happens like in the hiring process. And the level of attrition in the first year is 4 to 5x, average attrition for the company for that exact reason, and it happens, and it can be prevented. And I thought that my aha moment with Tonomi was the fact that there's got to be a way to help people become better aware of both what they think they have and what they need to work on, kind of where they are, and also connect that to the situation, the professional situation that they're at. So I always wanted to focus on the idea of adult learning and combining that with the social psychology of the concept of awareness. That's kind of like the hook. And then from that, be able to say, okay, well, so what? What does that mean in terms of personalizing your professional learning? What does it mean in terms of helping your leader clarify who needs what kind of learning in the first place, and then be able to personalize it and be more intentional and purposeful. But the initial hook of Tonomi is the concept of just self-awareness.
Was there a teacher or mentor early on who changed the direction of your life?
Oh, it takes a village. I don't. There's not like one person that maybe my dad perhaps, right? Just in terms of being able to just be a reliable partner to talk through things. But I was lucky to be both in good relationships and in bad relationships, and Tonomi itself is kind of wrapped around the circle of educators and teachers and policy makers, right, as advisors, and somebody has to help me build the product. And it's not only the existing customers, but it's also just a network of experts that have known me and the product for a while.
So you've said that we ask teachers to personalize learning for students, but nobody does it for teachers. So when did that disconnect first hit you?
I thought of the Tonomi concept back in mid 2000s, 2015, 16, and then I was lucky I spent a couple of years researching the concept, and then once I had the kind of the MVP, I was invited into this really excellent educator accelerator program from the University of Pennsylvania, and there they helped me really focus my attention on the on K-12 educators, because there was sort of a moment where I needed to decide whether it would be more of a corporate, like an L&D type of situation, a B2C model, or focused on, in this case, education, or focused on a niche. And so it's through that program that really helped me connect my personal kind of background within my family and my own understanding of the role of a teacher and the kind of work of a teacher, to some of the industry's realities. And so the reality in the industry is that billions of dollars are being spent to support and provide professional development to teachers. There are about 3.5 million total teachers, about 3 million public school teachers in the U.S. And at least half of it is just completely wasted, and most of it is absolutely meaningless. And then there's an activity of kind of checking off the box if you're a principal to evaluate teachers, and it's disconnected to the professional learning that teachers are expected to go to accumulate in terms of credits and in terms of man hours.
And Ilya, what was the moment you decided to leave the corporate path and go all in on education technology?
I was about 3 years into kind of that research plus MVP, and it was a moment like right before that, going into that EdTech accelerator.
And the name To Know Me literally means to know me. Where did that idea come from, and what does self-awareness, like why does self-awareness matter so much in your approach?
Well, it connects to, as I said, this kind of reality that there's a gap between what we all think, where we all think we are, and where we really are. And also, to know me kind of is rooted in the gnosis, which is Latin and Greek for knowledge, and a lot of it has actually come back to the English language. The words like acknowledge or knowledge, or even ignorance, it just dropped off the key, but it's like lack of knowledge. So it's part of our you know vocabulary, and so gnosis is really the knowledge of self, is kind of what's rooted in the idea of to know me. And what has been interesting is this kind of path of realizing that awareness is important. And a lot of the times, if you read like an HBR, Harvard Business Review article or something, it'll be like on change management. It'll be like step one, enhance awareness, organizational awareness or individual awareness. Step two, implement different parts of this change management strategy. And then they immediately go to step two as if step one is obvious. So it's really hard to measure what is unmeasurable, right? The skills in this case that we're referring to are not the skills of biology or mathematics. These are the skills of actual pedagogy, or the skills of professional behavior, or professional attributes. So these are the kinds of skills that are most sometimes valuable through the lens of other people. And sometimes the story that we tell ourselves is not the story that other people whose opinion matters see from the outside in. And so being able to portray that in a way that is building trust by an end user, in a way that is visually clear, that probably took another year and a half, 2 years of just researching.
So you won a global Reimagine Education Award early on. How did that validation change things for you as a founder?
I think as a founder, especially early on, and especially in a difficult industry like education, you need these little milestones and anchors to prop you up. I think that I've learned that when you, for example, go ask for money, people already know that it's just there to prop you up, right? They really need for more tangible things, and that's totally fair. So I think these are just important self-validating things, as well as credibility building, one step at a time.
You've also talked about how I think it's like something like how half the $4 billion spent on teacher professional development every year is basically wasted. What made you confident that tech could fix that?
Tech can't fix that. I mean, there's no confidence in that. It's just a baseline, right? On the one hand, it's a baseline. On the other hand, we then say, okay, well, if we implement a better way, a better design or experience, that there's let's put it this way: what are the reasons that half of it is wasted? Right? There's like 4 major reasons. So if we can fix them, then presumably less money would be wasted, if at all. Right? So that's the solution, to fix it.
And was there a specific school district or teacher whose experience made you say, this is exactly why we need to exist?
Well, as I said, the EdTech Accelerator program gave the foundation and also the kind of the insight and hands-on experience. And since then, it's been over almost 10 years. It's just been daily experience with teachers, with administrators, I'm not just behind the wheel, not seeing the field. I'm daily in the field, and to know me is actually like super well regarded for being able to respond and just address the issues, and that's why just at a solution level, what we do is we unify all parts of the learning experience, and it's all anchored in the framework or set of standards, or those, as I kind of referred to earlier, the expectations that leadership has from its teachers, from its educators. So on the one hand, teachers get evaluated according to the framework, but on the other hand, their professional learning is disconnected from this framework. So we pull it all together, and we actually create a very kind of unique teacher's lens. So instead of running and chasing different parts of your professional learning needs, everything comes to you, right? And it includes the feedback from your principal, it includes your own self-reflection, it includes that kind of self-awareness summary where you get to see how the way you kind of self-perceive is maybe different or similar to other people and to the way your administrator sees you. So all of that is wrapped around, and it connects people to hundreds of different resources that have already been pre-vetted and organized. And so you only see, the things that will improve your particular gaps or strengthen your particular strengths, because if you think about a framework, I think that's kind of the core of it all. The framework whether it's the appraisal framework or some kind of a knowledge framework, it's not like one skill. It has multiple domains like professional responsibility, learning environment, learning experiences, different types of attributes, and then within that it has components. So, for example, in education, the work that we're doing together with the Danielson Group, which really, in a sense, owns like 60% of the market, they have 4 domains and 22 components. So now, if you're a teacher, think of it this way: I'm a teacher, and usually I would get some kind of a checklist with 22 components. And most of them will be proficient, and there'll be one thing that I'm really great, distinguished. But it's sort of a compliance activity. Now you have a way to understand the rubric behind each of the 22 components. You get a chance to see where you think you are. That self-awareness compares to the feedback and evaluation from your principal. You get a chance to have all of your learning groups and coachings and all of the professional learning all in one place. All the forms that you're required to fill out, like with goals and achievement scores and all that. Or all of the follow-up, pre and post observations, the things that you usually chase around, like teachers have between 3 and 6 different passwords on average, just to do their job. So instead of all that, if you have it all in one place and it respects what you already know and it gives you personalized attention where you need help, that's where the impact really happens. That's what we call treating teachers like learners.
I love that. Yeah, I was going to ask you
if I went too deep or too far on that one.
No. Actually, my next question was going to be about the Danielson Group. Actually, you kind of answered it already, but just maybe to go a bit deeper into it. So you guys earned this AI validation badge, right, from the Danielson Group for responsible AI in education. What does that mean in practice for a principal using your tool? Can you go a bit deeper into that?
Sure. That was a very specific use case, especially like you said, through a lens of a principal. So principal as a staff leader, you have 40 teachers in your building. And so you have at the end of the year, throughout the year, you collect some evidence, maybe hopefully through Tonomi, and organize it to the needed framework, all that. But at the end of the year, you have the overall narrative, like the performance review, right, that you have to write about every teacher. And so usually that takes about an hour and a half per person. And so now, since you've collected all of that into the Tonomi system, and then Tonomi actually knows not only from you, but from other stakeholders that support teachers, and across all of the framework components over time, it really has all the depth of the feedback and observations, let alone the teacher's own goals and available resources. And so instead of you working through that hour writing stuff out, the system simply creates the overall narrative. It's clear, it's consistent, it's targeted to the Danielson framework, to the framework that you use. And so it saves you between an hour and a half. So that was the first use case. And because think about it, the drivers behind it are, number one, AI changes everything. including the content distribution and including like who the byproducts of that. So if you're a Danielson group, then of course you want to take measures to control that. And so we received this validation because we are focusing on AI, not on interpreting anything, but really only on relying on available evidence. And we've built gatekeepers to say that no, you don't have enough of the observational evidence for AI to help you create the narrative. We don't know enough about a person to even create a narrative. But when there is enough of that kind of minimum information necessary as input, then AI can be very, very helpful and time saving.
And your AI feature helps principals write evidence-based teacher feedback in about 30 seconds. How do you keep that human-led and not just an algorithm doing the thinking?
Well, it's, as I said, it is based off of a specific data file, and that specific data file is not only anonymized but is very structured and consistent with specific dates, authors, quantitative measurements to the extent that we provide those, as well as the evidence, just the things that people type in. And so there is no other source of information based on our prompting, and that's why it's very important to have at least a minimum of certain quantity and quality of information. So that really is, I would say that's the first part of the equation, right? To actually create the narrative. The second part, of course, is the responsibility of each principal to review it and ultimately agree to it. And because if as a teacher, the teacher doesn't care who created it, and obviously they take all the words personally from that principal, and so it's always going to be up to the agency of the principal or administrator to validate what the AI is suggesting. So we focus less on judgment, or really not at all on judgment, and more on leading the narrative to help save time for each principal.
So you're now in 18 states and 4 countries. Well, what does scaling look like in education, and where essentially every district is different?
The districts are different in a couple of ways. Like if you have enough of the understanding of how of the general expectations, the forms, the portfolios, the awareness, the learning resources, then the districts can adjust and customize and actually find it very helpful to make sure that it's like their form specifically, and then we're able to learn from the different set of options that are behind templates and resources and such. So that part is actually not so bad. The go-to-market and just the adoption curve is, at least in the beginning, was focused much more on really smaller schools, and now we are seeing adoption and growth more into the larger environments. So I'd say, it's hard for me to estimate how it works for with others in our particular field, but we're always looking for partnerships and for ways to grow.
Ilya, I was reading Idaho signed a statewide contract with you. What did it take to win an entire state, and what have you learned from that rollout?
It was an honest RFP process. I think many states are actually moving off of the statewide RFPs and giving individual districts these kinds of decision power. Idaho, a few years ago, put out an RFP that helped us validate both the product on the technical side, the user experience, and now, like 2 years in, validate the actual impact that this approach is having. In Idaho, we work with thousands of teachers across many dozens of individual school districts.
Nelia, where do you see AI going in terms of education over the next 5 years?
Oh, I think just personalization in general, like just at the very individual level. I think, I mean, again, it just has so many dimensions, AI, because AI is a way to, like, if we think about it from the end user, we can say personalization. If we think about it from the standpoint of technology build out, it's different. From the business modeling, it's different. It's, 5 years is crazy projection. Yeah, I've heard most futurists can't say anything past 6 months. It's insane.
Yeah.
What do you think? You talk to a lot of people. What do you think AI will be in 5 years?
During COVID, we did homeschooling for our children. We were fortunate enough to have a teacher come to our house and teach our two girls for 5 hours a day. And, although the kids loved it, there was obviously like the social component and whatnot. But I mean, I see eventually perhaps AI teaching my kids, right? To me, the idea of having a teacher, an adult standing in front of 40, 30, pick your number, kids, and being tasked to keep them excited, educate them, it seems like just a gargantuan task. Like it just seems like almost an impossible one. Like just trying to keep even 3 kids engaged in a conversation is like impossible. How do you do that with 30? So I don't know. I don't know the answer, but my gut says that perhaps like, I don't know, decentralization, perhaps these AI tools can step in and maybe even help educate, right? I don't know. I could be totally off, but
you ask questions like, how do you keep kids engaged? And teachers do it all the time, right? And they do it all the time today. Sometimes they do it better. Sometimes they do it worse. They do it better with experience, because that's a huge part of educating. I don't see a reality where there are only computers or only like monitors or only robots or whatever, and without humans. I don't see an environment without socialization. That's absolutely critical, and it's just so important. I do see an environment where maybe in addition to two teachers covering a 30-person class, you have 2-3 movable robots that know each student's name and style, and they know how to correct them as they go by. But the teachers are there to chaperone the whole process and to ultimately steer the robots in the right kind of direction of that particular classroom.
So I'll perhaps for the sake of this conversation, I'll concede on that point, right? That social is being social, interacting with humans is an integral part of education. So I don't think I have a strong pushback on that. When Khan Academy was really starting to go mainstream, there was this idea that the model of the classroom would be flipped, where potentially students would kind of like interact with a computer or an iPad, be self-taught, right? And there are obvious benefits to, let's say, watching a YouTube. I'm not even going into AI yet, but watching a YouTube video where you can rewind it 10 times and not be feeling like an idiot, because you're not going to ask the same question 10 times, obviously, in front of 30 of your peers. But I love this idea of like kind of children guiding themselves, but then at any point when they start to deviate away from perhaps the pedagogy or whatever, the teacher would be alerted, right, in the background. Oh, hey, Johnny's really struggling with 2 + 2 = 4. You might want to make an intervention and help him. So that idea to me really resonates versus, like I said, I'm in front of the class. I got to now shove information down your throat. Just, I don't know. Again, I could be off, but I feel like that model is just nothing against teachers. I mean, I think the world of teachers, but I just feel like that model was created maybe during when factories were a thing. And they just needed to
It's
like.
very age. I think it's very age dependent. I mean, K-12 is like 12 years, right?
Hmm.
So it's very age dependent. I think if you are letting robot or computer teach Johnny at the age of 2 plus 2, that's terrible, right?
Hmm.
I think if you're in high school and you're really more on the uh, you're really more on the kind of shove, as you said, shoving information in within certain subject areas, and I think that's a very different story. So it's
Hmm.
younger adults will already start developing their own agency, right? So, but before that, at least I would say up to age of 6. It's grade of 6, rather grade of 6. Sorry, sixth grade. Uh, I mean, I think this is where you really need a lot of human connection.
Yeah, cool. Ilya, so help me land the plane. What is the one thing you want every school leader watching this to walk away with, walk away thinking about?
Oh,
What do you want to leave?
there's just a better, smarter way to do what you already have to. Like you already have to evaluate teachers. Why not actually treat teachers like learners, and you'll see the impact.
Yeah, well, I am very grateful that there's people like you out there,
Oh,
putting
thank you.
your experience and your brain and your resources to work on something that's, like I said, I have 3 little ones, and I think as a parent, you want to see your kids grow up and be educated and be productive members of society. And
Well, thanks, man.
I'm obviously very passionate about AI, and so the fact that you're like, rolling up the sleeves and getting deep into that and actually moving mountains, it seems like it makes me feel really good, man. So thank you, Ilya. What do you want to leave the people with? Do you want to, I mean, maybe share your website one more time? Also, are you on LinkedIn, or do you have like a personal blog where you kind of share your own?
I blog occasionally.
Okay.
I'll admit. But yeah, we're on Tonomi, so it's spelled out as 2gno.me, and come check it out. Just contact me if you'd like to talk.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll bring this one to an end. Maybe hang back for a minute, Ilya. And yeah, I see we have a bunch of people watching live, and I'm sure the people in the future, when you watch this, thank you for your time, and we'll catch up on the next one. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.